In T-minus 3, 2, 1, we begin the fun. Touring our way through the NBA from that big apple to the place by the bay. Is your mind buckled in? Because it's time to begin. Sekou and his friends are doing it again. The Hang Time Podcast is the spot, so sit back, relax, because the show's about to drop.
Welcome into another edition of the Hang Time Podcast. I'm your host, Sekou Smith. In Atlanta, sheltered in place, like I hope you are, safe, sound, and your family's well. We've got yet another great guest lined up for you today on the podcast. A guy who I've known for a couple decades, who's one of the best human beings in the basketball business, one of the best guys I've ever met. He's the general manager of the Washington Wizards, Tommy Sheppard. He's navigating this time like the rest of us, trying to figure out how not only to manage, a basketball operation for the Wizards, but also having to deal with the adjustments we all have to on our home fronts. So we got a little bit of time, got on his schedule, and you need to give a listen to Tommy Sheppard, Wizards GM, talking about life and times in this coronavirus era that we're all dealing with. He's our guest this week on the Hang Time Podcast. As I mentioned in the intro, Tommy Sheppard, who's a decades-old soldier in the sports world here. This guy's been around for so long. His looks don't match his years of service. He looks like he's 25, and he's been in the business a lot longer than that. So, Shep, how you doing, man? First and foremost, how's the family? Is everybody safe? And I noticed an adjustment for everybody dealing with the shutdown here. How y'all doing?
Man, we are doing fantastic. Thank you. And I hope your family's safe. We got 8 people under one roof right now from most days, and the social distancing is a must, not only outside the world, but inside our house. We make sure we give each other our own space. But we've had a wonderful time, all things considered, because this is just time we've never had. 26 years of marriage, I've never been home this long in a row, and I definitely haven't been this consistently not late for dinner in my life. So my wife's really excited about those pieces. Yeah,
those family meals, we haven't done them since middle school. So we've been eating everybody at the table at the same time. It's like it's some Leave It to Beaver stuff. The kids are looking at their phones like, we really got to sit here and stare at y'all for dinner. Like, yeah, man.
No, it is. It's a return to our childhood in a lot of ways. We make sure we got Tombstone in the house. We tell everybody, put your phones down over here. We're going to talk for the next hour and a half. Dinner, we're going to just chop it up like the old days. And they definitely are the old days when the kids look at us, but we're having a good time.
No doubt. Now, I was telling somebody, my youngest son is homeschooled. And when the directive came down that everything was shutting down, schools were closing down, that was a joke to a lot of people's systems who are dropping their kids off every day, picking them up. It's been interesting to watch how the rest of the world has adjusted to our homeschool program, something that we've done the last couple of years. I know you got 7 kids, and I know you've been a homeschooler for some time. What's that been like watching other people? I'm sure you've been getting hit up for advice and how to handle it, how to manage it from folks you might know, but what's that been like watching the rest of the world get on a homeschool program and a work from home program?
Well, it's been an eye opener for a lot of our friends and stuff, but I think they all, first and foremost, I think the whole world agrees that teachers are so underpaid. It's not even funny. Coming out of this, hopefully you can get some adjustment for them, because having to do it yourself day in and day out, I think a lot of people find out how incredibly important education is and how poorly as parents we can deliver it if we're homeschooling without a plan. Biggest thing for us, all 7 kids, my wife is a saint. We made a decision to homeschool when we were going to be in sports. So you figure, hey, we're going to probably move around quite a bit. And so we wanted to have a consistent anchor in their lives. And this homeschooling was a great opportunity to do that for my family. The toughest things for me, I think a lot of times there are, certainly the PTA meetings stink because the kids are always mad at the teacher. The teacher wants a couple kids punished. But by and large, it's been a fantastic thing for us. And I think the best advice we give people is just to spend more time trying to learn the basics and building off of those things and trying to do everything at once. I came home and I was, really strapped in and ready to help my kids and working on different subjects. And pretty soon I kind of kept getting pushed out. So then I was helping in math, and now I'm just PE and I make lunch. But, they tell you something every day. But it's been a fantastic, and I'm sure you can agree, it's a fantastic opportunity to connect with your kids.
Yeah, it's just the time we've all spent, I think, reconnecting has been interesting. And I know, I don't want to gloss over it at all. I know professionally, you're wearing two hats when you're home, but you're also in charge, of the basketball operation for an NBA franchise. That's got to be a heck of a lift, trying to manage you whatever you're doing at home, but also managing this entire operation from home as well, where you don't have daily face-to-face interaction with all the folks you're working with. What's that been like for y'all, for the Wizards to try and get a handle on this whole thing?
Well, I think just literally since that Wednesday in March where Okie City and Utah, that happened, obviously we knew our lives were going to change. We made a commitment certainly as the Wizards. We also have the Mystics, the Capital City Go-Go, our medical staff, our player development staff, our facilities people. We all made a commitment to we're going to over-communicate to each other, and we're going to start with our players. We got everybody on call all at once with our medical staff, with our we have team psychologists that are available not just to the players, not just to the staff, but to their families, and really just tried to build off of that, of making connections every day. And we divided up, right, as I told everyone that works for our basketball family, this is your time to show value because you're never going to be more needed. Because the unknown, that's really where I think people read the worst into information voids. And the unknowns, right, we're not going to have the answers to that. But here's the solutions to our daily routine. Here's what we can provide. And so we kind of built in time for workouts that we do together. We have group yoga that we share with the Mystics. We have weekly check-ins from the coaching staff, from the front office, from the medical staff, and we all kind of take turns. Everybody's getting touched. All the players are getting touched, maybe not by the same person every day. And we compare notes. We definitely want to make sure that we get the feedback from the players all the time. Is this useful to you? How can we build off of this? And one thing I think that, as a result of that, we had a couple of things happen. We're now going to have a weekly team chaplain service. Our players miss our team chaplains. They miss that routine before games and stuff, and I think that's a great area. Our team chaplains have been reaching out to our players, and now we're on these Zoom calls, and they're like, hey, let's just do chapel. And so that's done. And then we have a book club that kind of formed. And then our coaches have done a great job with our video staff of chopping up a lot of video from previous games, individual opportunities for players to get better looking at themselves, but, playoff history. And that's helped them as most of our players here have not played with John Wall before. And John was practicing with us. He was scrimmaging with the Go-Go before we went on hiatus. So just trying to help players get to know who some of their teammates will be moving forward. And, Bradley Beal has grabbed the microphone on some of those film sessions, and he's walking players through the necessity in playoff basketball, the intensity, but the necessity to really, truly know your position, know the scouting report. So we just try to make the most out of every day. I think Doc Rivers had a great saying for his staff, and we kind of migrated over to ourselves. Hey, let's win this break. Let's make the best out of every day until the new normal emerges. We've all been creatures of habit. We've always had structure in our lives, in our basketball lives. Let's not go too far away from that, but let's also take this time to self-improve, to spend time with your family, definitely rest and recover. We all, during the season, we don't take care of ourselves the way we think we do. Yeah. We don't take care of our families the way we should. So this is a great reset for us. Unfortunately, during this pandemic, certainly you don't want that to happen, but let's take advantage of that time.
You're right. Monument of Basketball, I know as well, has really jumped into the void, in terms of charitable contributions and community contributions. I know John and Bradley are both doing things as well, but what was the initial lift? Was it instant, in terms of what Monument of Basketball had to do to reach out and be a part of a solution for the community there in DC?
Well, Monumental Sports behind Ted Leonsis is one of the pillars in the community of the DMV. He's always his double bottom line is an imperative in our company. So we're reaching out constantly, and he sets the tone for everything that all the teams do: the Mystics, the Wizards, the Capitals, the Go-Go, and several other franchises that we belong with DC Gaming. But giving back is a given. Like, we must do that. And then we were able to break it up into smaller groups and try to make impact in smaller ways. And these aren't things that we were seeking publicity for, but you try to impact our neighborhood. Our practice facility is in Ward 8 in Southeast DC. And it's an area that's really untouched, unfortunately, hasn't had a lot of the economic revival of other parts of DC. And we're proud to be the tent pole in that neighborhood. Well, we try to raise some money for the hospitals that are on the front lines in Ward 8 or near Ward 8, where we can just pay for meals for healthcare workers. That's something our players, when that idea was floated, they grabbed it and said, let's do this, boom. And now they're trying to say, okay, where can we get masks, and we can donate masks, and what else can we do? It's just the little things sometimes become big things. And I think it's so imperative to us, particularly when the doors open back up, that we all look and say, hey, were we good neighbors? Did we take care of people? Did we care about each other? Did we care about the world outside of ourselves? And it's so important to have a record of that says, yes, we did. You don't want to wish that you would have, especially right now, because you're not going to get another chance.
No, that's a great point. The leadership from the league in general, from Adam Silver, in the commissioner and the league office, all the way down to each individual team and then the players, it's been staggering. It hasn't been surprising to me, because I know what kind of fabric we're talking about when we talk about the people that populate this league and kind of make up the basketball ecosystem. But it's been really good to see everybody take such a leadership role in their own communities. I've been interested to watch people's reaction. My wife even has just been stunned. She was tearing up the other night watching a story, about another guy, digging in and helping out. And she was like, man, she's like, I had no idea the league, NBA, players in the league were this active, out there in the community. I told her, I said, yeah. So people think that those slogans and those, initiatives are for show, but they're not. It's real grassroots community involvement by these teams.
No, absolutely. It's a fraternity. These players care deeply about the NBA itself, and certainly some of the alumni from the NBA that have been out there suffering as well. And I think the minute that an NBA player contracted the virus, it became extremely right in front of us and personal. And we when you read about something that's happening around the world, it's a terrible thing, but it hasn't touched your life necessarily directly. And then when that started happening to our NBA family, everybody really took it to a different level and said, hey, we've got to do something. We've got to make an impact, because this is hurting people that we know. And I'm sure you feel the same. It's different when it has a face. It's different when you hear that person's voice and been touched. And, we had one of our former players, Jason Collins, and he suffered from it. And just reaching out and hearing his story, it was very helpful to us to know that he recovered, certainly, and what he went through. But, when I look at all the different situations that have happened to different players, different people around their families, there's people that it's a mild case, and then, God forbid, you have people that pass away, and it's just been awful. I think we're all rallying right now around Karl Anthony Towns and his family and the NBA, and sending prayers up. To lose his mother is just the absolute worst tragedy that you could possibly imagine, and how we can continue to try to uplift society. Stories like that, when they impact the NBA family, I know we all rally around it.
No question. This is from an operational standpoint, Shep, I know this is a time of year when you got teams that are obviously finishing up a regular season, if we're just going by the calendar. Then you got teams that are transitioning from that regular season into their pre-draft prep and whatever operation they have going on leading into the lottery, the draft, and the summer league. You got the playoff teams that are trying to prepare themselves. You got scouting staff scattered around the world, trying to do their diligence. I mean, how much of an interruption do you think this is to the entire calendar for the league and for basketball in general? I talked to David Gale, who's a coach over in Germany, and he was talking about the minute the NBA shut down, that forced every other league that's feeding off of the NBA to shut down. That put a halt to everybody's process.
Well, and I think that's a tribute to Adam Silver's leadership and the board of governors, that they felt so strongly what an incredibly critical situation we were in as a world to do that, knowing that so many people would take notice. And it wasn't just in sports, other industries. Hey, when the NBA shut down, that was a socially responsible thing to do. I think we all hope that we are part of the charge to open back up whenever that day comes, to help heal the country and certainly the world through sports is something we know that's proven. It can be a big uplifting thing whenever that happens. We're preparing day to day, the preparation for the preparation. You have to think, okay, if the season is X, we need to be conditioned at this level until that, when we can return to facilities. We don't know when those days are, and that's not for the conversation here today. But the preparation piece is very important because it also allows us to really evaluate our processes of what we do every day. When you remove yourself and things kind of come to a standstill, you can really see what are we doing that's valuable, and maybe we can amplify that. And what do we do that just isn't effective, that we have never really addressed, and maybe we can repurpose that somehow. It's not unlike cleaning out your closet, man. Right now, I mean, you probably did the same thing I did. You do a little spring cleaning, and you're like, how did that get in there? And I call them the pride pants. There's those pride pants. I got a good pair of jeans I swear I'm going to fit into one day. I've been hanging on to them. And my wife, she pulled the bugle out, played taps, and let's give those away, and you're able to let go.
Right.
So I get it. It's tough on all of us. I'll tell you who's going to be a very wealthy person is anybody that gets a mobile barber that can somehow have testing beforehand and afterwards. That guy's going to make a fortune right now. The NBA needs a haircut.
No doubt. I'm putting out the bat signal right now for somebody to come over and fix what little bit I got left. I listened to Bradley talk about his time with the Wizards and kind of where he is right now. It's so interesting to hear the players and how introspective they are when they get a pause like this. We're talking about Shep guys who, going back to their middle school years, they've never stopped.
The bigger conversations for me, if we want to touch on, we call them the 3 H's. Sometimes, what's your biggest hardship right now? What can we do to help you with that? Or what's on your heart? Then like, who's the hero of the day in your house, or who's the hero in your life, and get those guys to really reflect on the important people in their life. And then, hey, what's our hope? What's your hope to come out of this? What's your hope in life for not just for you, for your family, but for your impact? Because those are things that NBA players, as you've seen time and time again, can impact around the world on such an amazing platform and deliver things that, hey, it's great to have government, it's great to have structure, all those things, but players sometimes can deliver quicker impact and healing than any government ever could. And I think we have so many great players in the NBA that take that job seriously, and Bradley Beal's at the forefront of that. His give back to St. Louis to make sure that healthcare workers have access to food. What a basic staple, but what an unbelievable statement by him and Jason Tatum to do that, to be leaders, from where they're at. And it's just giving back to the people that helped raise them. But representing themselves in that light, it's not like something that Bradley would ever want the attention for. He just knew it's the right thing to do. And that just means so much to us as a franchise. He's a partner in everything we do. He and I have never had a GM player relationship. I always say we're partners. Our forge ahead on this season, on your career, it involves a great deal of communication back and forth. And he's going to be involved in every decision we make on and off the floor because he made that commitment to us, first by extending, certainly, but because he's earned it as a player and in all the things he does off the court, and we can't wait to get back to the court. But I'm using this time when I'm talking with our players, it really isn't about basketball. It's how can we be better coming out of this? What can we do to help you? And how do you think, your life should be coming out of this? So those 3 H's are just good conversation pieces. But when you get somebody to talk about their hardships, their heroes, and their hopes, I think that's really been a powerful thing. That's something I heard from somewhere else, and we just said, hey, this is a great thing to write on.
It's interesting, Shep, having known you as long as I have, there are guys who circulate in our business, and you bump into somebody at one stage of life and they're doing one thing, they bump into them years later, they're doing something different. I'm not surprised that you reach the levels you have because good people in this business seem to always find their way into those positions. And I'm wondering how much of what you've learned all throughout your career, going back to playing ball and being a part of a team in college, how much of that do you find yourself leaning on and referencing now in this day when you're the GM of a team and in charge with charting the whole course for an organization to try and get back to the standing I know Wizards fans and folks in DC want you to be at?
Well, thank you for that. And likewise, I'm amazed the things that you've been able to accomplish. I'm just so happy for you because you've always been somebody that you just knew stardom was ahead of you, and you grabbed it and ran with it. But for myself, my background, everything for me, the lessons I learned is being the youngest of 7, having 7 kids myself, being in team sports is always to be a great teammate. And what does that take, and what does that depend on? And being able to create that environment with the Wizards was the most important thing to me, and that's what I laid out in front of Mr. Leonsis over a year ago in the interview process, is how important it was to create a family atmosphere of accountability, responsibility to each other, and get players of high character. And I think when you have those things, hey, we all want to win a championship. There's only one champion. But I don't think you can win without high character people at a successful high clip and sustain it. I definitely don't want to jolt the system and go all in for 1 year, one championship. We want to be perennial, and we really want to be a great pillar in the community. And I think we're well on our way. We changed our entire roster. We've had 10 players to start the season that were brand new to our roster. Now I think we're up to 13 through trades. And Bradley and John Wall and Jan Mahimi, the only players left from when we were in the playoffs 3 years ago. So the dramatic change in our roster has happened. And I think now we got a lot of young players. And to your point, what are we trying to do? I lean back on my time in the NBA, my time with USA Basketball, working with them in Olympic Games and World Championships, and certainly my time with international basketball. What does it take to get a team to care about each other? Well, you got to get good character, start with, and then give them something besides basketball to care about. And that's what we're trying to build. And something like this right here, that's why make the best of a bad situation. We're going to take all these experiences and we're kind of harmonizing them and putting stuff together to remind players when we leave this, don't leave this part behind. Like the stuff we're doing together every day, the workouts where 12 guys on Zoom and they're busting each other because of their haircut or their outfit, or being able to just tell some of the same old jokes. Hey, we're not in a locker room, but we see each other. We can reach out and have some fun together. That's going to galvanize us, I believe. And I think that will be transportable moving forward. And let's not leave that behind about how quickly things can be taken away from you. That memory right here, these are the stuff your parents, your grandparents told you about. My parents, my grandparents told me about. Hey, don't ever take anything for granted, because it can be taken away from you. The only thing we can't take from you is your name, ultimately. And that's something that resonates with me. And that's what I'm trying to remind our players. Let's use this time to really, really dig in and care about each other, care about the world around us. And that all comes from, like you said, all the time that I've been in this business, the NBA has been such a blessing. But look at some of the great people we've been able to interact with throughout our careers. And they're not just great basketball people. They're great world-changing people. And so it's been a blessing all the way through.
No question about that, man. Shep, I appreciate it, man. And I know, like I said, I know you got gym class and you got to attend to, so I'm not going to step on the teacher's time too much, man. And I listen, at least they're letting you teach a class. I'm not even allowed to do anything in my house. They start the schools and they tell me to go away. So at least you got certified.
My favorite thing, I don't want to say I got rabbit ears, but I was sitting there listening to my kids talk, and my wife was on the phone, and my son had a question, and he asked his sister. I said, ask Mom. Well, she's on the phone, and said, well, I'm busy. So my son finally said, oh, yeah, I guess I'll ask Dad. So, I tell you what, you ever want to be humbled, hang out with your kids for a while. They'll humble you like nothing else. It's been great. It's a blessing. My best to your family. Stay low, stay healthy, and let's get through this together.
No doubt, Shep. I appreciate you, man. Blessings to the Sheppard family.
Always a pleasure.
I'll see you on the other side, brother.
My man, I can't wait. Take care.
All right. Thank you.
God bless.
I cannot say enough about Tommy Sheppard. As I mentioned earlier, one of the best human beings in this business. You're rooting for him and the Wizards not only turn that thing around, but also to be a sustainable Eastern Conference factor in the playoffs, to be, as he mentioned, a perennial factor in the Eastern Conference playoff chase and in the league. Appreciate him taking some time to talk to us and to give us some insights on how he's navigating this process, both as a professional and as a father and a husband. Great stuff from him. And listen, if you haven't already, check out some of our previous Hang Time podcasts. We got one with Andy Thompson, executive producer of The Last Dance, the 10-part documentary series on Michael Jordan and the Bulls and that last season they had together, that last championship season. Andy Thompson, brother of Michael, uncle of Clay, one of the best, guys in this business in terms of you go through his phone. He's probably got every number in the history of the league in there. Everybody knows him and loves him. He did a fantastic job. That podcast is out as well on the feed, so you make sure you double check and dig in and listen to that before Sunday's premiere of The Last Dance on ESPN. And as always, our producer Anthony Bonaparte's hard working during this shutdown, and we're going to be here every chance we get, bringing you the best conversations we can with all the movers and shakers in the basketball world right here on the Hang Time podcast. And we'll see you next time, folks. Appreciate it.
This one is done, but in case you want another one, here's the links to all the fun from Sekou Smith's Hang Time run. Check us out on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, NBA.com/hangtime, or wherever you listen to podcasts. Until next time, Hoops fans.